Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for holding this meeting. It's perhaps the most important one you've held this year. And I appreciate the witnesses to be here and talking about the real peril of the debt. Unfortunately, anytime we discuss the debt, we always talk about it in bean counter terms or esoteric platitudes, and you wonder why the public doesn't understand it. It's because it's never been put in practical terms that they could cope with or grab with. If we think about $1 trillion, you know, we're $20 trillion in debt, and significantly more probably for the unfunded future liabilities. We know that it was 29,701 years ago, before Christ, that equates to $1 trillion, if we put it in seconds. So the only way I think the average person can look at this debt is if we knock 9 zeros off of it and equate the debt in our country to a family with roughly, very roughly here, $40,000 a year income, spending $25,000 a year on rent. They can't live off the difference. And so we have a family that earns $40,000 a year with $210,000 on their MasterCard, depending upon which actuary you look at, for unfunded liabilities for Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, interest on the debt, and veterans benefits that have already been earned, $800 to $1 million. And it looks pretty hopeless. And anybody that talks about the country being bankrupt is skewered. This is, I don't know if you can see it from here, this is a $50 trillion bill in Zimbabwe currency. My office gave it to me for Christmas. It's basically worthless, except it has Ron Paul's signature on it. That makes it priceless to me. But in 1980, a Zimbabwe dollar was worth the same as one of our dollars. And anybody in Zimbabwe that maybe had $5 million in the bank thought they were pretty secure. But at the time they gave me this currency, it cost $10 million in Zimbabwe currency to buy a loaf of bread. And so I think, and I've asked a number of economists, would you write a paper on how this affects the everyday American, the hyperinflation that we're invariably going to suffer if we continue to accumulate the debt that we are, like they have done in Zimbabwe and many other countries that I'm sure you're familiar with. We don't have time to discuss all of them. And they all just say, well, you know, hyperinflation is really bad, but they don't go into the real pain of it. And the video the chairman showed beforehand shows a picture of it. It leads eventually to hunger and violence, as we're seeing some in South America now. And so I would hope that somebody could, with the knowledge and ability, could articulate this in a way that the average American can understand. The average American family, if they had $2 million in the bank now, they'd think they'd be good to go. Their retirement would be secure. But if we have the hyperinflation that's invariably coming, if it gets as bad in Zimbabwe, their $2 million in the bank wouldn't buy 20% of a loaf of bread. And that, you know, that's not something that is beyond the realm of possibility. And I oftentimes see adversaries think we actually need to spend more money, and we know the only people that come through these challenges well are the uber wealthy. The middle class and the poor get crushed every time this happens. The uber wealthy make out because there become some bargains in the marketplace that they're able to take advantage of. And so, you know, there are clearly people in this country in high positions that would actually like to see this happen, would like to see Americans suffer this because they would gain personally like they have in other countries where they've destroyed economies. And it also helps their social agenda. So I would like to ask each of you what you think is the most dire prediction of the hyperinflation or the continuing to spend without increasing productivity that we have now.
I think you've said it exactly right, which is the consequences will be that when the crisis hits, there will be reactions in policy at the federal level, higher taxes, slashes in spending that will exacerbate the economic downfall. That will be concentrated largely on the least well-off in the United States. And so when you think about, you know, how awful it is to say to do Social Security reform, compared to what? Well, compared to that, those people will be much better off.
Thank you.